So, considering how interesting I found the first game between SK Gaming and Schalke 04 to be, I wanted to do a VOD review of it. It's been a long time since I've done these things, so I decided to just do it impromptu. So you'll have to forgive me for any problems and pauses in my communication. But regardless, I don't want to touch too much on the draft. I already said in the private Discord chat in in the esports channel that I already quite liked SK's draft. This was of course before I knew they were going to lane swap. But there is one thing I do want to touch on before we go into the game, and that is the first pick Lilia. So, looking at SK's comp here, Volibear top lane isn't really that bad, and because of how quickly Lilia clears, you can technically put the Volibear into the Renekton and have a decent lane. The Sigs versus Orianna will be a pretty static farm lane, so there's not a problem with this lane either. The problem is the Jinx and the Morgana lane. So if you just look at the Jinx Morgana lane versus the Nautilus and Senna lane, so Jinx as an AD carry is not as weak as people believe. Jinx has very good trade patterns, and because of her rocket launcher, she can splash damage off of the minions to harass the enemy while farming. And she builds attack speed very quickly in lane because of her passive. And because of this, she actually has pretty decent laning, and that's one of the reasons why she's actually a pretty decent pick into things like Caitlyn. The problem with this lane is that the Nautilus has very easy access to her, and the Morgana, while she can shield the Jinx from the Nautilus CC, she cannot protect them both, and Nautilus can easily approach them, even through a Dark Binding. On top of this, Jinx's weakness as a laner is getting ganked. So SK decides to mitigate this by lane swapping. The problem here is that SK is being very cocky with their draft, because presumably they know they're going to lane swap from the very beginning. That's the strategy going into game 1. But if you look at SK's comp, there's no initiation aside from the Volibear jump and maybe a Morgana Dark Binding. And while that's fine, considering the comp they're playing into, that means they have to wait for Schalke to come to them. So they have to have a frontline soaking damage. But because they're going to lane swap, the Volibear will be behind in gold, and as such won't be as tanky as it could be. But because you first picked the Lilia, you don't have another tanky target on your team to help the Volibear soak damage. So if you really wanted to be neat with your picks here, you should have picked maybe a Skarner would have done well here. You would have had some level of initiation and pick potential, and you would have been tanky. Could have also gone with, well, I suppose Set is banned, so maybe a Sejuani. It's not the best overall for the team since the only ever melee champion is the Volibear, but you would have had more initiation and more a larger tank line to soak damage. And you don't necessarily need more damage because Sigs and Jinx has a ton of damage. So the Lilia pick here sort of tells me that SK is being very, very cocky, and that they don't believe that Schalke will be able to respond properly to their lane swap strategy, which ends up being false, as Schalke responds very well to their lane swap shenanigans. With that said, let's get into the game.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, everyone.
Alright. So, actually, let me just get my glasses. Alright, so to start off with, let's take a look at the minimap. So, if you look at the minimap here, you can see that SK Gaming has control over the topside river. They have Volibear protecting the upper opening and Lilia protecting the south opening. This means they can easily scout if Schalke will invade, which we already know they won't. They will instead invade bot side, and know for a fact that Trick is starting on the top side. So far, there's no significant wards put down, so let's continue playing the footage and see how it progresses.
Summer season playoffs. Trick limit Gen X.
So you can see here, Gilius is holding the choke point here, and there he saw Gen X and Trick, and they saw him. So they know that Gen X and Trick are on the top side, and that they've warded the red buff. In response, Dreams walks up and wards SK's red buff. Now they can each see each other's red side, and because of that, they will both start on the blue side.
Somewhat expected. You were talking about how Trick on Lilia likes to farm, likes to kill, wants to play that control game.
Exactly, and I mean, one thing we saw very early, I think it was over in the LEC, one of the first games that Lily got played. She went for the early invade on enemy Raptors and Krugs. Of course, with her Q, she can blitz.
You can see here as well, if we rewind slightly. So if you look at the minimap here, you can see that there's a there's an SK ward on the SK red buff. SK knows that because they invaded into the Schalke Fear jungle and warded, they know that Schalke Fear will do the same on the opposite side of the map. So they had to place a ward there to make sure Schalke did not start on their red buff. Because otherwise they would have to split the map and play entirely towards topside, which is not really what they want to do. That wouldn't be ideal, but it would be something that works. But you can see that Schalke has done the same on their red side jungle. And though they can't really see the red buff from there, but it will protect anyone walking by here, by the Raptor camp.
Of course, with her Q, she can blitz through those AoE camps very, very easily, and if she maintains stacks for passive, she can just run through her jungle at super speeds, but this is different. SK still have their dual lane up here, Trevor. It's a minute 20 seconds. It's a lane swap.
Okay, we do not see a lot of lane swaps, and we definitely don't see it with this composition. Why would they be doing this?
Okay, so honestly...
Alright, so Gillies invades here.
To be perfectly honest here,
Saucy spots him, so they know that Gillies starts late on his buff, meaning they have a tempo advantage in the jungle, which is why they do this. Gen X pulls the blue buff for Trick, while Trick kills the wolf camp, and you see Gen X take a significant chunk of damage here, but it doesn't matter because he will be duo jungling with Trick. But this speeds up Trick's jungle pathing incredibly much, meaning that he can quickly clear his entire blue side, move towards bot side, and they can start protecting bot side while they give free farm to Jinx. The problem... Actually, we'll get into the problem as it plays out. I think that's probably better.
Off to a very fast start, so I think again it's going to be all about getting.
You can see that there's a ward placed here now by SK to look at the ramp and see if they enter their red jungle.
Kind of genius, because look, you have a cold start on Jinx because she knows she's not playing in the 2 versus 2 lane, so you can get.
Oh, yeah, maybe we should touch on that as well. They give a Crown Shot gold advantage here because Crown Shot starts Cull. Cull is an item that is very beneficial because of the free gold it grants you, and you can sell it afterwards, which gives you even more gold. But it has fairly poor laning stats comparatively to all the Doran's items. So you don't really want to start it in lanes where there's a possibility you get killed. Which is why they've started it during the lane swap. And because Schalke Fear did not know it was going to be a lane swap, Neon has not done the same.
Bonus gold, even if the turret in top lane is a little bit harder to kill.
Now you can see here that well, at the very least, according to the post-game interviews, Odo Omne, but Schalke 04 as a whole, realizes that what SK's goal is with lane swap here, which is why they have this Raptor Camp ward, so they can see when SK's jungle top duo walks into the red side. Because of that, Gilius clears Wolf Camp, and then goes straight into the jungle. You can see that Abadage has mid control, which means that he can roam before Zase, and because bot lane is closer, you can also collapse with Dreams and Neon. The problem here for SK is that they already know they have this plan. So at this point, Limit should already be roaming down, and Sase should have been pushing up the lane and focused on getting mid control right away, instead of focusing on getting as much CS and lane one-on-one pressure as he can. So because Sase is playing the lane incorrectly with what their strategy is, and because Limit has not roamed down yet, they're in a little bit of a pickle and will have issues executing on their planned tactic. Here you can see Dream starts leaving the lane. Gilius is running in towards the Raptors. He didn't expect him to be done this quickly, which is why he takes a lot of damage here. But considering he smites the Raptors, he's healthy enough. Sase tries to roam first, but because Abidage has pressure in lane, he manages to cut him off and deal a significant amount of damage to him, which means that Sase is now out of the fight. And because Gilius smites the Raptor, he's full health. Odo shows up with full health. Dreams shows up with full health, while Trick and Genix are both around half health, meaning that SK has 3 players at half health. Schalke has 1 at half health and 3 at full health, and they still have Neon farming in the bot lane. Limit is roaming down to help out, but because of the way SK played it, Limit is very off tempo and is way too late to this play. This isn't necessarily Limit's fault, but it's a fault in communication and planning, and this is really something they should have worked out with this strategy. When teams do original and creative strategies like this, generally speaking, they have the early game worked out. You play the early game the same every time, over and over and over and over again, until you have it down. So I don't know why they messed this up. Now, considering lane swaps are no longer very popular in League of Legends, it's not that surprising that they are making mistakes like this. But considering how well Schalke responds to it, they get heavily punished by the fact that they didn't execute this cleaner. With that said, it's not as bad as it might seem, because Jinx is getting free farm in the top lane, and her whole goal with the lane swap is getting a BF sword on Jinx so that she can actually fight the enemy bot lane, not even evenly, but actually ahead. As you can see, Limit realized he won't be there in time, so he headed back top. And now you see here, because Limit was late and that they lost the priority in their red jungle, Trick and Genax had to take the long way around, while Schalke 04 can cut through the SK red jungle. And because Schalke still has mid priority, that means that they can send all 4 people down, and they can have Abidage hold down mid lane, and unless Sasi teleports, there's nothing SK can do to get down here, except recall the Morgana and send Morgana bot, which is what they should have done. Because ever since Riot decided to patch out lane swaps, bot lane turret has been weaker in terms of resistances than top lane turret. Meaning that if this turns into a turret race, SK has no chance of winning. Even though they have a better AD carry for taking turret damage, because they're trying to defend the bot side, and because of the resistances, they have no chance of winning this race. As such, they should have kept pathing bot side with Limit or recalled him early, sent him bot as well, and sent 3 people here, because with 3 people, considering Gillies is late and on half health, they can force their way through Odo and Dreams by sending Genax first and following up with damage from Trick, and force their way to the first tier tower. And with 3 people under there, they can't dive unless they also send down Abidage. But if they send down Abidage, Sasi can teleport, and Crownshot also sits on the teleport. So technically they can force a 5v5 bot lane, meaning Schalke cannot dive. But they can only do so if they roam down Morgana. But because they didn't, now they're cut off from their wave. Genax will fall further behind and he cannot get any farm, meaning that Odo will be ahead of him for most of the game, if not all of the game, and his lane will essentially be sacked, meaning they will have to put all their eggs into the Sigs and Jinx, and now their entire front line is ruined. So now their excellent team fighting comp no longer works, and it becomes a pick comp instead.
Way down here, and you know the aftershock to prevent against a dive isn't going to mean anything if you don't actually get underneath the turret. So all the CS is still being denied.
And we need to track what impact this will have in the global state of the game. Crownshot on Limit will be able to clear out that wave. They're going to get themselves the...
You can see here that they leave solo gold on third plate for Odoamne, meaning Odoamne doesn't get as behind as he otherwise would have been. Of course, it means Neon will be more behind the Jinx than he otherwise would have been, but that's fine because Odoamne will have a massive advantage on Genax now, and because he's now getting minion farm as well as XP, although it's shared. He's going to be a big Renekton compared to the Volibear.
They want to move up there. They've now recalled Genax as well to make that push forward, so I think they'll get there in the end. But Gilius, if he continues to play around bot side, those camps are going to be cycling up, respawning sooner, so he can actually reach level 6 faster because of...
You can see that Gilly still has camps on the bot side. He never took his blue side, and there the wolves respawn. So Schalke has full control on the bot side, and they just abandon top side because they know that SK can't race them. So there's nothing they can do. Also, you see here, Trick tries to take the red buff, but because Sase still doesn't have mid pressure, there's nothing he can do here. They have a ward, so they've seen that he's in this quadrant of the jungle. Gillies took the scuttle and then went straight towards him. Now, it is a little bit risky because technically they could send Crownshot and Limit down, and they should be able to win that 3v3, but you can also see that Abadage is level 5, so he is the strongest member out of the 5 on the top side of the map. On top of that, Crownshot is very low in mana, so he cannot use his rockets as efficiently as he'd like. So it's not an entirely safe play. There is some risk involved with it, but it is, I'd say, a 60-40 play for Schalke maybe. So it's a pretty good play regardless. And while they're doing this, Odo is still getting farm in the bot lane and getting bigger than Genax, and Neon and Dreams is helping him down there, and they're pushing the turret and getting more and more plates. Actually, forgive me. Neon and Dreams are pushing bot lane, and they're getting more and more plates, getting the tower lower to open up map control, while Odo has backed and is rotating towards this plate to be able to back them up should he need to. Of course, level 1 Renekton will not be able to do much in this play, but at the very least he'll be able to occupy space. And if nothing else, he can walk top, since Gillies is now on the top side and Abadage has mid control. So he can actually get some farm on the top side if he decides to go towards the turret.
Vision, and they're setting...
Also, look at the vision here. SK has good vision, but because they haven't cleared out this ward, they cannot control the red side, despite how deep their vision is. Because with how ahead Schalke is in terms of map control at this point in time, they don't really care about this vision. They can just walk through it.
Oh man, Trick's in trouble. We'll get caught up with the distance.
Also, Trick doesn't need to flash there. He has a black shield. This is a common problem with SK this game. They don't trust Limit enough, so they constantly flash when they get black shielded, which is a big problem because that means they waste the black shield and their flash. While if they actually execute that well, they can actually force out cooldowns to exchange against their cooldowns. Now, we can also see down here that Odo Omni was headed top, but he realized nothing would happen here, and because of the wave and how Genax approached the wave to get some farm, he realized that he can actually TP down here, and they can dive Genax.
But that's 3 versus 1, and that will
So you can see here, Dream survives, so Genax doesn't really get anything out of this, while Neon gets a kill, meaning he's not behind Jinx at this point in time, he's actually ahead, especially considering all the plates he's gotten, and Odo gets assist gold, and now they have a choice. Either they back Neon and Dreams, since Neon is out of mana and Dreams is low, and send them top to deal with Crown Shot and Limit, or anticipate that Crown Shot and Limit will swap and send them bot again to match the SK bot lane. But they can also try to keep Odo Omni in bot lane as long as possible to get as many plates as possible, considering how much control they have on bot side. So at this point in time, SK doesn't have any map control. They have the SK Blue Quadrant side of the map controlled, but most of the rest of the map belongs to Schalke of here at this point.
be first blood picked up by Neon. Flawless, they get themselves another plate, and the red buff is just about secured here by SK.
Yeah, so Genex will be able to teleport back, so this death isn't the end of the world.
Yeah. So, as you heard Ender just say, it's not the end of the world if you die as a top laner in this situation. You obviously don't want to die and give up kill gold, and when lane swaps was played to perfection, it was about getting as much income as possible as a top laner without dying. But because people aren't as practiced on it, people will die when these things happen. This is also something that comes with the inexperience of Genax as a top laner, because he hasn't really lane swap before in an actual professional game. So another thing I want to touch on is that this doesn't really just apply in lane swaps, but for top lane in general. A lot of the time, top lane is decided by the wave state, and depending on how the wave state looks, it can actually be okay for a top laner to die to make sure he gets the farm. And that's a very hard call to make, depending on how the game is looking at the time. But with very experienced top laners, you can sometimes see that they actually go into in and hide under their tower, despite the fact that they know they're getting dove, because they want to pick up as much of the farm as possible, and then they can TP back. Because if they don't pick up the farm and back off, they'll be very far behind in lane. So that's one of these situations for Genax. Now, because Dreams is so low, they can't re-dive him, meaning he's relatively safe. But Odo Omni is already super far ahead of him, so it doesn't really matter at this point.
Because if you remember back to old lane swap days, it's like how much CS can you salvage while only dying once or twice was generally the premise around success for the laning phase. And he says, level up over Odo Omni, it's huge. No. This is honestly what it was like. It's level 2 top laners to level 4 bot laners. Like, what's going on?
I personally am fond that the lane swap meta did not persist throughout the years of League of Legends, though there was a beauty to it.
Shut up, Quickshot. Lane swap meta was amazing. So I know I'm basically alone in thinking that.
3 minion waves stacking on top of each other before crashing into the tower.
Gilius is consistently controlling bot side. This is a good idea from him. Means they have priority over Dragon. But you can see that there's an SK ward in the river, which means he cannot stealthily gank bot lane, and they know when he enters the jungle. And now SK has swapped down their bot lane again because they've accomplished their goal with the lane swap here. Jinx has a BF sword and his 10 CS up, and is halfway through to cashing in her call. And because of the item spikes, with Senna going for Mana Immune and Jinx going Infinity Edge, Jinx is now stronger than Senna and will be for quite a while. Now, the problem here is that they Schalke 04 read SK's plan wrong and swapped Dreams and Neon to the top. And while that certainly works, if you look at the timer, it's 5:51 into the game. Rift Herald spawns at 8 minutes, meaning there's still 2 minutes until Rift Herald spawns, meaning there's nothing to play for on the top side except turret damage. While on the bot side, there's already an Infernal Drake. That's why Dreams is recalling right now, so that Schalke can contest the dragon. But if SK moves straight out into the river and places down Vision, they will control the river and will have priority on Drake.
A big pickup for him.
The one thing I do want to point out, though, is that 10 CS advantage for Crown Shot. He's running a flash TP and 50 stacks on Cull remaining. A Jinx that could get excited.
Neon is also backing here because they realize that they need to be able to contest Drake.
You said something during drop dinner that just really stuck with me. That
Sase finally has lane control, but he's also used all his mana, so he needs to go B.
So I really want to see how SK are going to play this out. We talked about their push
Trick is backing to prep for Dragon, meaning Trick is late.
We'll see how the next few minutes play out.
Genax has been sent top, and now it's standardized lanes again. But they can't really... Like, as you see here, Gillies roams down from river because they've cleared out the wards that SK had. So, which is why Limit oversteps and gets caught here. Now, in a 2v2, Neon and Dreams would not be able to fight Crown Shot and Limit here. But because Limit steps up so far, he gets caught and gets mega chunked. And since Gillies is here, they force the flash. I don't think he needed to exhaust here, actually. That's actually quite a bit of a waste. But he did so anyways. But regardless, as you can see, Limit steps up once more. Gets chunked even more. That was really dangerous. Because if Dreams actually did a fake out here and hooked Limit, they could have traded 1-for-1. And potentially... even gotten Dreams out of there. But it would have been a long shot. But yeah, now Gillies has it back. Limit is low. So no one really has priority on the Drake. Well, I guess Schalke still has priority on the Drake because they have river control and mid control. But the SK jungler is here. So it's a contestable point at this point. But we're also in a situation where Genax is one... Well, he's not in a full level, but he's a level up on Odoamne temporarily. But because of the gold differential, as well as the fact that Odo will soon catch up in levels, he will never have control on top side.
Tough to deal with, especially if you can burn Black Shield easily. You can see there the early itemization from Gilius too. It's not going into a jungle item first. It's good. It'll be a Trinity Force, so it's Sheen on the first purchase, which gives him a lot of upfront damage with that E, especially after the buffs, which increases.
You can see SK walking up here. Limit is healing from all his health potions and cookies.
On the edge here,
and because of how strong Crown Shot is, they will be able to control bot side, especially since Trick is here.
The big difference is going to be the AD carries.
So there you go. Now SK has control over River, and will be able to control Drake.
25 difference right now, 30 stacks until that Cull procs.
You can see just how powerful Crown Shot is there. This is an interesting idea. They send Genax down to gank while Trick is moving up, trying for a free man collapse. But Abedage is level 7. He has his shockwave and he has his flash. Plus he's moving. He's holding down towards the side where his jungler is. And because Trick doesn't have a solid CC, that means they can't catch him no matter what they do. So it's a good idea in theory, but they don't have the champions for it, and Abedage is playing really well. Also because he left lane, now he falls even further behind Odoamne.
Not yet having access to that lifting lullaby.
You know, I wasn't paying super close attention to who was picking up CS for Schalke's side in the bottom lane because Odoamne did come down there, and I do know he has a CS lead for now. So I wonder if they were like...
Look here at the goal differential. Because of the plates and the minions they gave Odo early on, and because Odo has full control in his lane because of it, he's now 700 gold up on Volibear. That is huge. That is massive in a lane swap. So this just means that Volibear is useless for the rest of the game. Now you can see that despite the fact that Crownshot is up 25 CS on Neon, because of the plates he got and the first blood, he's actually only 200 gold behind. Your entire goal with the lane swap was to catapult the Jinx ahead and get her the BF sword, and you did succeed with that, but you're not ahead enough to nullify the problem that has been caused in the top lane. So that is a massive problem for SK here. Now, it's not the end of the world, as long as you adapt your style, play towards pick comp, and play Protect the Jinx. But in that case, you need to make sure that Jinx stays ahead and that Schalke doesn't snowball.
Wait, we can just do a mini.
Also, you can see here that there's no vision for SK in the river anymore, because they tried to gank mid lane. They wasted their opportunities, and now Schalke controls the river, making it very hard for SK to contest Dragon if they decide to go for it. But you can also see that Rift Herald just spawned. So technically they can rush up there to trade. But because Odoamne has such massive lane control, the only way they can do so is with superior numbers.
Fasting Senna for like 2 or 3 minutes here while Odoamne is in the bottom side and shovel him some extra gold. So yeah, 700 gold lead there, and Neon not going to be too far behind at all.
Now, what do you think about SK's sort of decision making? We're 8 minutes in, it's a 500 gold lead to Schalke, right? SK initiate the lane swap. They commit to a play, and it surprised both of us. The draft surprised both of us, and all expectations for the series was that SK are somewhat the underdogs. You know, they come into this game, Schalke have all the momentum, look to be in form, and
I think this is strange play from Schalke. Like, they're going for the Rift Herald here, and they have control in both soul lanes, so they can, but they're giving up the Dragon without really having to. Like, what you could have done is that you could have pushed out the lane with Abbedagge, send Gilius up to make sure he can push up the lane, then move down towards Infernal Drake, actually towards bot lane first, force Crownshot limit back, and then rotate up towards the Dragon. You have full river control, and you can roam down Odoamne to support the play, meaning you can get Infernal Drake safely, and you won't have to give up Rift Herald for it, unless SK completely swaps over to topside. But in that case, you don't even need to do that many precautionary steps. You can take it sooner and then contest them on the Rift Herald and fight them. Because you're stronger at this point in time. Which is primarily due to Abbedagge. So here's the objective trade. Bit pointless, but oh well.
The thing is, we're still seeing from SK the standard staple of their playstyle. Despite the crazy picks, despite the crazy start to the game, they still get an uncontested.
Gilius keeps invading. Gilius is such a fucking beast, honestly. He's so good in the early game. I don't think he's the best teamfighting jungler in the league, but he's so fucking good early on. Good binding from limit there, blowing Neon's cleanse.
Your memo, that's not what you're going for. A lot of the time he'll be on a set or something, he'll just go for those early dragons, and I think by drafting the Jinx and the Morgana...
So at this point in time, the game's not over yet. SK still has a win condition, but they can't 5v5.
We're obviously going to be looking for this playstyle, going to look to see can SK be successful with it. The status quo for focusing on pushing this, that style worked out. And we saw the damage, by the way.
You can see that despite Schalke invading, they don't have any wards in the top quadrant. In the top blue quadrant of the map. So they don't actually have as much map control as they should have.
Doesn't take, Dragon Souls to close out games. Gilius is going to be much more focused on finding kills, finding plays around their lanes. And one of the things that does make Schalke so good is that they're very flexible.
Now what you want to do mostly as Schalke here is that you decide to either send Gilius and Abbedagge bot and try for a kill play in bot lane, but in that case you want to wait for Odoamne to have his TP up. At that point you want to kill or force the enemy bot lane back and then pop Rift Herald in bot lane to kill the turret and free up your bot lane. But they also know that they can't make that play yet, and they want to make a play as fast as possible to accelerate the game. So instead, they decide to go for the other play that they can do, which is send Abbedagge top and Gilius top and threaten a dive on Genax and pop the Rift Herald to take the turret.
Hard camp bot lane, they can mix it up, and right now they're eyeing Gen X in the top.
And it's also interesting when you see Schalke on their winning streak, how they've been able to snowball early advantages, how they've been able to come back from 15-minute deficits. And the analysts have talked about it as well. That versatility is helping them, and is why they are somewhat favored this series. There's a dive here to Gen X. A lot of damage coming out from Super Mega Death Rockets.
All right, so let's watch this again.
Lane, they can mix it up, and right now
But we'll slow it down even further. Well, I guess at this point we're sped up, but let's slow it down and watch it.
And the analysts have talked about it as well. That versatility is helping.
So let's see here. So Odoamne pops his ulti and his stun on Gen X, but Gen X times it super well and goes unstoppable as he stuns. Meaning that all of a sudden Gen X just completely avoids the CC. Gilius also layers his relenting charge. His E anyways. And because of that, they don't get any CC on Gen X. But he can CC them. Meaning he CCs Odo, who is tanking the tower here. Meaning that he will have to get the fuck out of turrets as fast as possible. And because of the Ziggs bomb, they cannot even fully dedicate on Gen X. And as you can see right now, Odo is too low to tank the tower, so he has to get the fuck out. Gilius will start tanking the tower now, meaning that he can only take 1, maybe 2 shots, but because Gen X can go on him, he should only take 1. Meaning it's all up to Abe. And Abe could go for the play here and try to execute Gen X, but because of how much health Gen X has left, if he does, it will most likely be a one-on-one trade. And while that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Schalke, in terms of catapulting ahead, that would mean that they give gold to Gen X. And what they want to do is continue starving Gen X so that SK has no front line and can't teamfight them. Gen X does a great job here of flashing the Shockwave amidst all the effects though.
Coming out from Super Mega Death Rock.
So with that, there's no way they can kill him anymore.
Oh, here.
Odo's gonna run away. Here comes Abadaga's Shockwave of used an Shockwave.
Though he should not walk forward there because Abadaga is a big threat.
Was definitely going down, but he managed to outplay that one. And all the kudos to him.
Yeah, I mean,
that's very well played by Gen X. Really, really well played.
Like, I see Volibears walk into this matchup with a press the attack, and they're going to do a little bit better than they would with an aftershock here for those trades. But when you're in a 1v3 situation,
the sad part for him is that because he's so behind, it doesn't matter that he played it so well. He still has no chance of doing anything.
And bot lane, they just flashed down there too.
Oh, here comes the swell seed. Able to apply the drowsy. Here comes.
All right, so SK is. SK is making a play here. They just saw Gilius in on top side, so they know that they can make this play relatively safely. The problem is that they're not used to playing against a Hecarim. They don't understand his speed. As you can see, Gilius is already by the Drake pit. No, most junglers wouldn't be able to do that. And most junglers would path down there by taking their camps. But Gilius is a psychopath, so he just rushes down there to cover for the play. And because they've mistimed Odo's TP, this just means that they no longer have a numbers advantage. And as you can see, Crown Shot is actually rather far away still, so he can't deal damage while all this is going on. So Trick flashes in here to get his spin. To be honest, I don't really know what Lilia does yet. I haven't read up on her that much. So I can't tell you what the fuck he's doing here. But either way, he flashes in here. Nautilus hooks him. And he gets dealt a fuck ton of damage because he gets ignited and Neon actually hurts like a bitch. Not as much as Crown Shot, but he still hurts a ton. And basically every target on SK is squishy. And now SK sees Gilius. Actually, did they see Gilius before? let's see. No, Gilly's recalls and he just rushes down here.
That's going to give you time to survive. Zazie, of course, has the ultimate he can chuck in for wave clear.
What does he do? Okay, he walks around the blue wall, and then moves down through the river. Okay, so he's actually going for the counterplay from the beginning. He's not interested in canceling the play, but he wants to counter it. And SK has no idea that he's just rushing down here like a psychopath. They don't know until he walks up here within the vision of this green ward here. And because of how much damage Trick takes, because Lilia is not that good of a champion, honestly. Well, from what I've seen of her and from what I know of her. They're just kind of fucked, especially since they mistimed Odo's TP. Alright. So let's see here. Is there any way at all SK gets out of this? So let's look and see. Trick has used his flash. Limit's flash is down. Crownshot's flash is up. They have exhaust. They don't have any other combat summoners. The Lily ulti is down. The Jinx ulti is down, and the Morgana ulti is not unlocked yet. So on top of that, Black Shield has just been used. So that means that once Black Shield runs out, they have nothing to defend themselves with. So Trick and Limit are 100% dead here, no matter what they do. There's no fucking way to get out. I mean, the only one who can get out is Crownshot. So at this point in time, Limit and Trick's job is to protect Crownshot and make sure he doesn't die. That's it. That's the best they can do in this situation. And Schalke would like to kill Crownshot, but he has flash and he's on full health, so they decide that it's probably better to just kill Trick and Limit. This is really bad by Trick, though. You need to move out of this ulti to buy time for Crownshot to get out. Now, he will get out either way, but if you move out here and then move back down after the ulti, you'll at least force someone to go for you, or you can just walk out of this. Meaning, there's no way Crownshot dies and he doesn't even have to flash. But because of the way things look here, right? Gilius goes straight for Crownshot. And no one needs to care about Limit because he's still so far out with no flash and half health. So even if they send two people on Crownshot, they can't do anything. Like, Limit still dies, regardless of what they do. But yeah, Crownshot is forced to flash here. Maybe he would have had to flash either way, honestly, now that I look at it. But I think it's possible that he can save his flash if Trick doesn't die to the Senna ulti. But either way, with him TPing down here, what you want to do is give Odoamne the kill here. Either Odoamne or Neon. You can give it to Gillies as well if you want to snowball Hecarim. But considering the situation in the top lane, you'd be best off giving it to Odoamne. But as yeah, Odoamne gets it actually. Alright, so that's really good.
From Schalke gets to.
Yeah, that's a huge punish coming through right there. And Trick, he lands the sleep, he tries to make the play, but we see the weakness of...
Alright, so here's the Rift Herald that SK picked up earlier. I feel like maybe they should have popped it in top lane before when they tried to make a play on Genax and tried to go for the dive afterwards. But I think this is fine too. Like, because the dive failed, it would have only taken some plates in top lane, but there was no way to know that before they executed the dive. So I still think on paper they should have popped the top before they executed the dive, but considering that didn't work out and that they didn't do that, this is probably the best play because now they free up their bot lane.
There, once she gets, like, she's very fast, but she can't dodge key abilities, and she has no defensive tools.
Also, at this point, Neon is probably still a little behind Crownshot, but because Crownshot, but that's just because Crownshot casting Cull.
And here's that replay.
I mean, this was sort of odd because there's this immediate flash, and here's what the observer's trying to show us. The ball, it rolls all the way down here. I mean,
All right, let's
what
skip
a
this.
shot to be
We just watched this.
Long-range seed. Just moments before the series started, our executive producer stepped over and was like, I don't understand, Lilia. Those balls just go everywhere. I don't
Yeah,
understand
me
how to
neither,
play."
main producer. Well, I do understand it better than you, clearly, but
They are indeed
not to that
going
level.
hit something that will
I don't really
get
play the
them.
game anymore,
But
so
Schalke, 2,000 gold up.
I haven't
3 kills to
gone
0.
user
Yes,
yet.
They conceded a Drake, and yes, Crown Shot is fed with farm. But Neon is fed with kills.
They have good
And
wards to
Optimus
protect
as well,
Neon
so
here.
Schalke sitting very, very pretty, and those pushing lanes become a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, and when you're looking at gold,
As you can see here, Gen X does 0 damage on
Neon is
Odo.
still going to have an advantage there off of those kills. And I think that because all the flashes have been burnt down.
Alright, so here's where Neon makes a mistake. You cannot walk this far up. Like, you have a ward in Tribush, you had a ward on the ramp, but it's no longer there. Meaning that, as SK is positioned right here, you have no way of seeing them in time. So, if Limit had flash here, he could just walk up here, flash over the wall, and cue him. Now, he's still somewhat safe because he knows he doesn't have flash and neither does Trick. And Sassy is, you can see him on the map. So it's not that atrocious, but I think Crown Shot has red. Yeah. So if Crown Shot walks up and rockets this minion here, it will splash onto Neon. He will get slowed, meaning Limit can catch up. Neon will be able to chunk Limit, but Limit can just walk up to him, exhaust, pop ulti, and then he's 100% dead. He's walked up way too far considering the wards they have. They are preparing well for Dragon though, but because Neon walks up this far, if SK pulls the trigger here, their entire Dragon setup just falls apart.
Doesn't have his either. SK should not be looking to contest this Drake. Gilius is going to get a reset off. He might even have enough money for Trinity Force, sitting on 1,400. So I don't think quite he's going to be able to make it there. But
they're not confident in pulling the trigger though, because they don't have the vision outside of the jungle, so they don't know what the fuck is going on here in the river or in the lane, aside from this one bush here. So they don't know if anyone is there to collapse on them after they make a play, and since their last play failed, they're a little bit paranoid. So yeah, they're not comfortable with this play. But if they pull the play there, they 100% kill Neon and get bot control. Also, as you can see here on the gold, the entire game plan for SK was to catapult the Jinx ahead. The Jinx is now 300 gold down, despite cashing in the goal. Which obviously is fucking awful. Now, it's still not the end of the world because of how fucking good the Jinx is in the late game. But at this point, it's very hard for you to get into the late game. Especially with the massive goal differential in top lane. So you're starting to get on the edge of not being able to win this game anymore. So SK needs to slow down the game and just make sure they can keep funneling gold on Crown Shots.
will be relatively close. Instead, he's going to go for some Merc Treads on top of Phage. But yeah, SK can't really do anything after losing their tower down here. And unfortunately for them, there is not a Herald to trade.
Alright, Crown Shot's setting up a freeze here. If
If
they're willing to give up this dragon, that's very good. It means they can funnel gold on Crown Shot without really losing much. When does the Rift Herald respawn? It's like, I think it's 7 minutes, so it should be like
And the problem with Jinx as a champion is her ramp-up time. It's really long. You know, for a long time, I feel like we saw builds with like a Blade of the Ruined King as a first item.
15, 15, 15, 20?
That gives you a worse 3-item spike when you can't
Maybe?
have 75% crit chance and an Infinity Edge.
Not entirely sure.
Crown Shot goes for the first item, i.e.
Is it 6 or 7 minutes? Well, it doesn't matter right now.
On the other side, Neon,
But you can see that Schalke is setting up on the Rift Herald, and they want to snowball map pressure and take down more turrets as fast as possible. Alright, Rift Herald is about to spawn. Neon's playing this really well. He can't get caught here because then they lose pressure around Rift Herald.
To keep track of the differences.
very well sidestepped. Now,
That's an excited crown shot.
I think that's one of those not used to the champion things. Jinx doesn't really play a whole lot anymore, though I'd argue she should be because she's actually really good. So Neon totally forgets about the fact that Crown Shot gets a passive speed boost by taking down the tower or getting a kill, and as such get a little bit chunked. But because there's no ward coverage in the jungle by SK, they can't chase this, and as such they have to back off with Neon just being chunked. If Limit had hit one of those bindings though, Neon would likely be dead. Also, SK is sending up their players to contest the river control here, and because Schalke decided to reset, like ward the river and play for the reset, they're coming out stronger now, but they don't have the control yet. But given how far ahead they are, they can send the Nautilus and Hecarim in blind and force themselves to control.
So for a moment,
He did.
able to escape.
He for sure forgot about
super
that.
felt that way.
He's like, oh my god, what happened? This guy's does he have Ghost or something?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just Jinx passive right there. I do love that we brought up the EXP.
SK is trying to rush the Rift Herald since they know Schalke wants it. So this is just poor play from Schalke, honestly. Like, they were the ones who took Herald first, and they should know that it's apparently on a 7-minute timer, meaning that they should be prepared and like have already reset and have placed down wards and be here for when it spawns. So it's really bad of them to just let SK walk up and take this Herald. And that's one of the problems LEC has had this entire split, in my opinion. There's been so many times where people 50-50 objectives, or where they're not at the objective by the time it spawns and have set up for it. So they waste a lot of time just setting up, resetting, and trying to out-pressure the enemy team. It's just really, really poor macro play, honestly. Now, I haven't watched enough of Korea and China, so I don't know if they're a lot better, but like, if we look at relative strength to what we should be at this point in time in League of Legends holistically, every team should be good enough to know this at this point. But clearly that's not the case. Alright, so I'm going to slow things down here again and we can watch this fight that's unfolding. So, you can see here that as we're set up, Neon is by the wall. He's fairly safe. Gilius is protecting him from the TP flank from Janax. Abidage is holding here. They have a ward so you can see Sassy walking up. And Dreams is holding the front line. So Neon is fairly safe. Abe is super strong. And Gilius is also really strong. And while the Janax flank could threaten Neon if Gilius wasn't here, Janax is just so weak it doesn't really matter. Another problem is that SK isn't synced. Crown Shot was up farming minions, so he's still like 2 seconds behind Limit and Trick. So it'll be a while before he can attack. And unless someone zones Gilius, the threat of Gilius just diving on him and killing him is massive. Especially since Limit has already used his Black Shield. That's the massive problem here. You cannot use your Black Shield not on Crown Shot. Crown Shot is everything for you in this comp. So because we've used it here, Crown Shot can't fight. Now, they all turn on Janax, which is very well played. Now, the 6 bomb here is very good. It blocks the choke and forces them out. But Dreams doesn't move in time, so he gets massively chunked out. But look here at Abe. So much damage on him. Neon shoots straight through, meaning Trick is basically dead here. And here comes the shockwave. Bam! Janax dead. Now, Morgana roots Abe here, but it doesn't matter at all because Sase isn't in position yet, so he can't capitalize on this. Gilly still hasn't used his ulti and is right here, So Crown Shot can't walk up and shoot him. Crown Shot also can't walk up here and shoot him. Crown Shot can't do anything right now because the black shield is down. And Genax was just CC'd. And did he use his ulti? Let's see. Yeah, he did. So Genax is not threatening whatsoever. Alright, there we go. Alright, so fucking dead. Alright, so look, now Zasi is in position. And he actually does a really good satchel here. There's a Morgana ulti, an exhaust, and satchel to bring him closer to Crown Shot. Meaning Abe is in a very, very poor spot here. However, Genax is so far behind that he's zero threat to Abe. Zasi can go for him, but he doesn't have ulti, so he only has some burst damage. Limit is very far behind the levels, 6 levels behind, so he won't deal enough damage to Abe. Neon is in range to heal Abe, so and Abe can shield himself, so Abe just won't die here unless Crown Shot gets in. But because Gilius still has his ulti, Crown Shot can't walk up further than this. Gilius' threat zone is like this, like he's already in the threat zone, technically speaking. So Crown Shot can't move up any further and can't deal damage in this fight. So you can see here, he throws at the mines, but because Gilius walks up here, he cannot contribute to the fight. The only way he can contribute to this fight is by walking around and standing down here, but it will take so long that the fight's already over. Now, Abe flashes here. I don't think he needs to flash here, honestly, but it's probably better to be on the safe side and stay healthy in the fight to make sure that Schalke has no way of losing this fight. By my opinion, they still don't have a way to lose it, even if he stays there. But like, at this point, Abe is so strong that it doesn't matter too much if he uses his flash, because they don't really have a way of punishing it. But he definitely doesn't need to use it there. And here we go. Gilius ults in, chunks limit, fierce Genax, chunks Zasi. And now right here, Genax is just dead. Now Crown Shot can walk up, because Gilius is no longer a threat. But at this point, the fight's already over. They could try to counter-engage with 6 Jinx here, but Schalke won't let them. So actually it's a really well played fight by Schalke, and well identified how they needed to play it. Well positioned by Gilius, and Abe just having a really good shockwave and good damage. Neon also plays it really well. Also, Crown Shot plays it well for, as in terms of his positioning, because the way SK plays the fight, there's nothing he can do. So it's just poorly communicated and planned by Schalke.
Like, the theory behind it is nice, but Crown Shot was not involved in this play. Like, he was running top lane when his team teleports in. Zazi's also over this wall, so he's actually not in this fight outside of his ultimate. He may as well have been in a completely different lane. So, I mean, Abadage plays really aggressively here. Like, he could have
Crown Shot, and as you mentioned, Zazi going different directions to where the rest of the team is going.
those are their damage dealers too. No one else is carrying.
That's a little bit.
Alright, so let's take a look at the items for now. So we can see that Ziggs has a stopwatch, Sork Shoes, and Ludens, which is decent damage. But if we look at Orianna, she is a needlessly large rod up instead of the stopwatch, because she doesn't really need a stopwatch. And Abe has Mercury Threads, meaning Ziggs and Lilia won't really deal damage to him. Meaning the only one who can deal damage to Abe is Crown Shot. But as long as Gilius has his ulti, it's very hard for Crown Shot to teamfight. Especially with no frontline. Now we look at Genax. He's building towards Merc Threads, but he doesn't have them yet. Meaning he's very easy to deal with, and he has Sunfire Cape. Which, you know, it gives him decent protection. and makes him a little bit tanky, but because of how far behind he is, it's not that big of a deal, and it doesn't protect him at all against Abe. Meanwhile, Odo has Blade of the Rune King, meaning there's no way in hell Genax can hold Odo in the side lane. Abe will win out against Zase unless he fucks up majorly. Gilius has not hit his strong point yet, but he's certainly not weak. Trick doesn't really matter at this point. And between the 80 carries, right now, Neon is stronger. Because Jinx is a hyper carry. But she's a hyper carry that's strong in the early game. So Jinx is strong at BF Sword Spike and at Infinity Edge Spike. But once she gets the seal and starts building into attack speed, technically speaking, she gets stronger, but she doesn't get as much stronger as other 80 carries, meaning that Jinx is now in her power trough. So until Crown Shot finishes his seal item and builds his next item, Jinx will be weaker than most 80 carries. While Neon has Duskblade and Manimune, and as such is probably at Senna's strongest. So at this point in time, SK can't fight Schalke at all. And they need to wait for Jinx to hit free items. But because of how behind they are and how much control Schalke has, there's no way in hell he'll even get to free items.
Picked up by Neon, by the way, in the previous fight, and at 17 minutes, Schalke have just put themselves in a very commanding position, and it feels like they can now dictate the tempo for the remainder of this game.
You can see Odo flanking here. This is very threatening for Crown Shot, especially since he doesn't have allies around. The closest one is Trick, but what the fuck is Trick gonna do? But at the same time, Schalke doesn't have people prepared to dive him, and even if they did, I feel like they need more than Odo. Because if Odo flashes over and actually no, they probably don't. They could probably dive Crown Shot here, but since they don't have wards around here and they don't know how close their teammates are, they don't want to risk it until they have better info or more people there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why they should.
Another problem I see now that I didn't actually consider while watching the game is that Schalke is very in control, but their ward line is actually very shallow. So they're actually not controlling the map as efficiently as they could. Alright, so Trick just overextends here, but Gillies decides that instead of risking him having backup, he just takes the crab and backs out and goes for the next play.
And also when you combine that with the Onslaught of Shadows with a potential, ball delivery system, quote unquote 8-year-old meme.
They don't need to control this river here as much as they're doing. It's going to be hard to push against the Sigs when... actually, no teleports is up. So, no, actually, this is pretty good. Because since there's no teleports, no one can join Sigs and no one is on top side. So, this just means basically free turrets. But at this point, turret is down. Baron in 110. No way for SK to take Baron. Just put a ward around here, make sure they can't take Baron for free, and then swap all your vision down towards bot side and play for second Drake. This is a real good ward. This is a ward that might seem poor initially, because it's in the middle of a lane, minions will pass by here, so you'll have vision here anyways. But because of how much control Schalke has, often Schalke will just push up the wave, meaning that you can't see anything that goes on behind this point. So by putting this ward here, you essentially always have vision on this part, meaning that anything that passes through here will always be visible to you. So that's a really good ward, actually. Personally, I prefer to be a little further up, so like here maybe, because then you'll also cover this part. But SK couldn't push up far enough to place that ward. As you can see, this ward, just this ward almost went down, so...
some old terminology. Let's buckle up because we got some wave clear monsters on the side.
True.
On the side of SK. I think if you look at Zazie, you look at Ziggs, as well as even to a degree, you know, Trick with the Q.
Alright, so because of resets,
they'll be able to. If they punch up the tower
there's
down,
not really anything SK can do to contest this Drake, so it's basically free.
baffled by SK's comp.
They just need to not get caught, and that's free Drake. There you go. Neon was about to make a mistake there, but he recognized that if he keeps walking that way to cover Dreams, the traps and binding of limited crowd shot will have an easy time hitting, and he'll just die.
He must be a great team fighter, right? Well, no, that's not the case.
So here's the thing, right? Genax is not threatening at all here. So he can just... Odo can just basically walk up here if he knows that no one else is nearby and just hit the turret if he wants to. So Genax starts chasing here. I believe that's why Odo starts backing, or did he see Morgana first? Alright, let's see. No, he doesn't see. They haven't even started rotating yet. So they don't know where Siggs is. Meaning it's a little bit risky to walk up any further. So Odo starts turning around. SK wants to make a play on Odo though. And since Genax is very behind and probably a little bit tilted, he gets desperate here and chases out. But there's no point in him chasing out here because there's no way to catch Odo. And also if Odo actually just turns, he can probably kill him before Morgana gets here.
Level 11 are not as effective as they should be in this game because of the early lane swap, but because Odoamne will still hold inherent value in
and
the
because they walk down towards Odo, they now give up control on top side, meaning Schalke can control top side of the map and play around Baron, because there's not a whole lot they can do. There's not a whole lot SK can do to contest Baron to begin with, as long as Schalke has control. And because of Dragon being recently killed, there's nothing to do on bot side. The only thing they can do on bot side is to have Odoamne split push, but because of how far ahead they are, they don't really need to. They can just 5v5, even if they have to die the turret. Also, here is a big mistake. So, Schalke has just walked up into top side of the river, cleared out your vision, and you have very little vision in your jungle. So you have no idea what's going on in your jungle except for here, where Zazie and Trick is. So Crown Shot walking up here means that if someone is here and someone is here, they can just go over the wall and kill you immediately. Can probably even do it through Black Shield. At the very least, if Odo was already here, but since he's not, it's not going to be as punishing.
50 CS down, he is still
Alright, so Trick saw Gilius, which is why Crown Shot starts running back already and pre-flashes. But once again, SK is making the mistake of flashing with a Black Shield. So as you can see here, on this very frame, Black Shield comes on, Gilius still hasn't impacted, meaning that there was no need for Crown Shot to flash here. Gilius would simply just hit him, not knock him back. Crown Shot could keep backing off, and then just shoot at Gilius or back off. So he has wasted his flash here. And that's huge because Gilius didn't even use his ulti. Neither did Dreams. So now there's basically no protection for Crown Shot against their ultis because Limit can Black Shield one of them, but he can't Black Shield both, as long as they don't layer it.
Managing to charge up. Look at the flash and a Crown Shot. That's already a victory. Death Rocket will not be able to pick up the kill.
Gilius takes a big chunk here, but it doesn't matter at all because he got the flash out of Crown Shot. And he smites the big one to get health back, so...
He cannot afford to play that far forward. 3,500 gold lead. Dragon was secured, and this will be the fourth.
I don't know why Limit is backing here. He just came from base.
How good Jinx, or how good Crown Shot thinks Jinx is now, because the change that happened to Jinx on this latest patch was, it was technically a bug fix, but it was a big buff. The ultimate damage on her rocket was unintentionally being capped against.
Look at that. Odoamne is not scared of Genax at all, as shouldn't be. Alright, so the turret goes down. They overextend a little bit for the turret, so Trick just jumps in, gets the Black Shield from Trick. But again, Because Black Shield is down, Crown Shot can't fight. Dreams tried for something a little bit ambitious here to catch Crown Shot as he's walking up and keeping CC'd. But he missed. Neon does a clutch cleanse here, but he still gets hit because he doesn't walk far enough. Because he panics and wants to heal Dreams. But Dreams stopwatches. So that's pretty bad for them. But it's not even close to enough to lose this fight. So there we go, chunk on limit. TP coming in. Odo immediately pops ulti, flashes. And he's in E range on limit, on trick, on the minions, and then he can EE crown shot. On top of which, Gillis is just rushing up in unstoppable onslaught, I think his ulti is. And just casting unstoppable onslaught and crown shot. And because limit wasted his black shield on trick again, crown shot is just fucked here because he flashed earlier. If he doesn't flash earlier, he can flash backwards now and kite this fight. It's a little bit iffy regardless because Odo and Gilius will probably just kill his teammates and he's not strong enough to kill them before them. But at the very least he will live and most likely Siggs as well as Genax who's not here. And maybe they can stop Baron. But at this point, because he flashed and Limit was a dumbo and he used Black Shield on Trick, it's just doomed. And this is essentially game. Abe is such a beast. I don't know what the hell has happened. Like, Abe, until week 7 or so, was the worst mid laner in LEC. And he has never been that great. But week 7 he stepped up and looked decent. Week 8 and in this playoff series, he has looked like a god. Like, he has looked like he can contend with Caps. It's actually insane.
It makes all that wave clear option significantly weaker. And just look at the initiation once the TP's coming.
Alright, I don't think we need to watch this. Because it's so one-sided and there's nothing they could have done with how it was initiated. So, how does he know Trick is... Oh, there's a ward up here. So he must have seen Trick up here and been nearby and he's like, oh yes, thank you for the free kill.
You have created a line. The pinnacle of Rubik's and Brizzle in the third is Trick.
Oh my god. He even ultis to take the Gromp. Feels so bad as Trick.
Made a call that will forever be etched in my mind when the undertow was chucked out and he yelled, hit him with the meat! And you just yelled, hit him with the bush! And I just heard you channel Riv as Gilius goes 3-0-3. Amidst my little story, instantly removing Trick from the game, and with Baron, gonna take another tower. I mean, this is
very nice that they have full control in jungle here now, so they can just split however they want and get full control of the map. Like at this point, SK is so far behind, it doesn't matter anymore. They can't contest with them in any way. They need to have superior numbers to have a chance, and if they send superior numbers into one lane, the other lanes will just fuck them. So it's just already game at this point.
Alright, that's two people picking a fight with Odo. As soon as Gilius shows up, SK like, run away!
4 people going top. They don't have synced waves, so it's not as bad as it could have been. But you can see here that bot and mid lane is kinda synced. I think it's only the cannon minion because of the clear Sasha did earlier. But top lane is not synced at all, so they can basically just sack bot lane and rotate between these lanes, and then engage on one side as fast as they can. But I don't even think they can win 5v4 at this point, or a 4v3.
We've got 2 top 2 mid, and it is kind of a testament to the...
But because they want to protect bot lane as well, top lane comes in and syncs up with the other waves. You can see mid lane gets a new wave. So now all the waves are synced essentially, except bot lane. But bot lane still has minions remaining. So that just means that because they're sending everyone bot lane, mid and top is basically doomed. So you need to swap back.
SK kind of played the wild card, it didn't connect.
But you see they're not doing so, so bam, there goes mid lane.
SK2 have that
Not enough minions left in, on top side, so they didn't get top from this. But here comes the next minion wave, but now they've rotated there, meaning that there's no opposition on bot side, so bot lane gets taken freely. It's just a snowball because of how strong they are. And here they're trying a desperate play on Odo, but the question is, why the fuck do you go for Odo here?
The base is being destroyed. They got themselves Odo.
Like, they're already in the base. Going for Odo does nothing. You have to go for bot or mid.
Mission secured.
So yeah,
Number 1 goes down.
and that's just how they lose the game.
Goes down.
Sorry, you choking?
I actually did. I was going to grab a bottle of water just before the final push.
Good flashblade ring, staying alive.
Being pushed back somewhat. That's a flash engage here from Genak, but he doesn't have
They don't even need to back here, yeah.
Trying to fight Shellcat.
Oh my god, our base damage is disgusting.
Schalke continue their win streak and take down SK in game 1 of our summer playoffs.
Schalke is outclassed. Just completely outclassed SK this entire series. Our base is so fucking good right now. Well, regardless, that's my attempt at the VOD review. It probably was a lot longer than I intended, but you people just have to deal with that. Hopefully, I could teach something new regarding lane swaps. It's something I was fairly adept at way back when. So hopefully that was interesting to listen to. Regardless, was a fun time. Well, tell me if you like it, I suppose.